welcome to episode 18 of Big Hoof Energy. I'm your host, Ryan, and as usual, I get to be joined by my co-host, Kaylie. Kaylie, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. We are without Jackson today. Jackson's got other work obligations, so we'll miss him, but I'm sure he'll catch up with us a little bit later. But in his place, at least to join us through these first couple of races, is we're going to preview the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby Stakes coming up from Oaklawn Park this Saturday. We have track announcer and handicapper Matt Dinerman. Matt, how are you doing? Welcome back.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan, Kaylie, and yeah, doing really well. Obviously, we're excited for this weekend, the Racing Festival of the South, as we call it here at Oaklawn. So Friday through Sunday racing, just a lot of races. I think 35 races in 3 days with 10 stakes. So we're very excited.
That is a ton. That's basically a stakes race every third race or so. So that is ultra exciting. That's going to make for an excellent weekend of racing. What were your thoughts on kind of that Saturday card overall, mainly looking at kind of the late pick five? And obviously we'll talk about the Fantasy and Arkansas Derby Stakes.
It's a good card. I mean, 13 of the 14 races are either allowance, maiden, or stakes horses. And the only race in which is not one of those categories is a real solid starter allowance to kick things off race one. So in terms of quality, you're finding the quality. In terms of just star status, there's plenty of it. Horses that are younger that look to be going in the right direction. And also, for example, in the Oaklawn Mile and the American Pharoah Overnight earlier in the cards, very nice older horses that we could see down the line in the handicap division really doing some good work there. So all throughout the card, very good quality. That's really the theme here. And good field sizes as well. I think we've got a little over 11 horses a race on average, which is very, very good.
That's fantastic, as it always is down at Oaklawn. Kaylie, real quick, I'll go to you before we dive into the stakes. Did you have a chance to look at any of the other races on that late pick five from Oaklawn on Saturday?
I took a quick glance and definitely noticed the big names, like I know Anna Marie is coming back, so that should be really, I'm pretty excited to watch that horse come back, who's apparently been training really well. But in terms of the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby, I think they're two very strong, interesting fields, and who knows, maybe we'll see the winner of the Oaks and the Derby on the same day again this year.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point. Kenny McPeak obviously went back-to-back in the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby with Torpedo and Mystic Dan, and then went right back to do the Oaks and Derby double. So we'll see if we can find the winners for this year's. We'll start with the Fantasy Stakes that is going 1 mile and a 16th over the dirt for these 3-year-old fillies. We got to start with the favorite in the number 5 Quiet Side. I'll put myself and Kaylie's picks up on the screen. I went 9-1-3. Kaylie went 5-1-9. Matt, when looking at this race, obviously you called Quiet Side's win in the Honeybee Stakes. Do you think she's good enough to repeat here?
Definitely. I mean, she's multiple grade 1 place, so she's shown an abundance of talent as it is. I think that 2-back race in the Martha Washington, where she actually lost to Take Charge My Lady, who's number 1 in this race, I give her a pass in that. She didn't look fully cranked just watching her run, and she also had a really bad trip. It wasn't a good trip for her by any means, and we'll just leave it at that. Her Honeybee, she looked a lot more cranked, a lot more fit. She got a good trip. And I think this time around, she's going to get a good trip again. I actually was trying to bet against her last time, and she was 10-1. And looking back, definitely an overlay. But I still thought she was one of these fillies that just had sort of a grinding running style and didn't have a big kick. But she really showed a good kick last time. I was really impressed with her last race. I think she's developed from 2 to 3. I think she's getting better. I think she's going in the right direction. So for me, even though Simply Joking at 8-5 is the morning line favorite, in my mind, no doubt, Quiet Side's the horse to beat in this race.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. The 7, Simply Joking, is the morning line favorite, but I believe we share the same view that the number 5 Quiet Side is going to go off as the favorite, having just more experience. You mentioned the multiple time graded stakes place, but what were your thoughts on Simply Joking here? Myself and Kaylie don't seem to think too highly of this one, at least not in this spot.
Well, I think it's a little bit of an awkward position timing-wise for her. Not ideal after just 2 races, and then she's taken a few months off, and now she's running in the Fantasy. You've got a horse like Quiet Side that really all she has to do is maintain her fitness in this race, run decent enough, and then she's off to the Kentucky Oaks versus a runner like Simply Joking, where Whit Beckman off the layoff really has to crank her up to have her run a good race here because she needs those points to get into the Kentucky Oaks. So this is pretty much a ride or die type of race for this gal in order to get into the big spot, the Kentucky Oaks. I think she's decent. I think she's got a bright future herself, but I just feel like Quiet Side has more of the recency and the fitness edge. And I think that she's a little more appealing than Simply Joking. One of the fillies to beat 100%. She hasn't done anything wrong, but she is lightly raced and given up some experience to Deeth. So I made her the third pick, but I think she's very beatable in this race.
Yeah, excellent points. I also feel this one is beatable. And Kaylie, you clearly agree with me. Was there any other reason that you wanted to leave, that you opted for leaving Simply Joking off your tickets like myself?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty tough spot for her to step into. We also, haven't seen her since January, and she's not going to have things her own way up on the front end like we saw last time out. I mean, Quiet Side is just a horse that continues to put the pieces together and also continues to get faster. She put in a bullet work in between her last race and coming into this, and I think with Quiet Side breathing down her neck, or with this horse not being able to get the lead, it puts her in a pretty difficult position. And she's also stretching out for the first time. I think with no pressure, she could get the distance. But when you do look at her pedigree, I mean, there are some questions with her stretching out and getting the distance, even today, especially the Oaks distance as well.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I share in both of your sentiments of fading the number 7. Kaylie, I'll keep it with you rather. So we'll go to the number 1, Take Charge Milady for Kenny McPeek and Brian Hernandez, who obviously teamed up to win this race last year. But you and I both have this horse in second. What were your thoughts on this runner?
This horse was really moving in the right direction in every single start, was improving in every start until the Honeybee. But you could toss the Honeybee. She had a very troubled trip, as did a lot of horses that day. And she is a filly that showed a lot of talent prior. So, she's going to have to probably be forwardly placed, breaking from the one hole, which shouldn't be a concern. Prior to the Honeybee, I mean, she has a few where she was pretty forwardly placed, especially when she broke her maiden. So I think she has good enough speed to get herself into the mix. And I think that this one is probably sitting on a race as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you with the draw the line through the Honeybee Stakes. Just had too many things kind of not go her way. A lot of trouble in that trip, and should come back in here. And if she builds upon that 2-back effort, that's certainly going to make her a huge threat, because she won that race like a really nice filly that was going to go on. So I'm willing to give her one more shot as well. Matt, you mentioned that you kind of have a top 3 in here, with Simply Joking as the 3. Was Take Charge Milady in that top 3 somewhere?
She was. I agree with you guys. There was an excuse last time. She didn't break well and got a bunch of kickback and was way far behind. And she lost her air, actually. She displaced in that race. So sometimes that happens with horses. They just – it's a pressure thing. They displace their palate and they lose their air. So that's physically what happened there. And I know that for a fact that it happened, talking to a couple different people. So I'm actually encouraged after that Kenny McPeek's putting her back in a race like this, because that means he hasn't given up on her. He thinks that she can go back to her best form, which we saw 2 starts ago, easily defeating Quiet Side. Again, Quiet Side didn't get a good trip that day in the Martha Washington, or a good ride. But I think Take Charge My Lady in this spot has ability, and if she won, it wouldn't be a surprise to me at all. But she's drawn inside of other speed horses, and her only 2 big races have come when she's gotten a good trip. So she needs to work out a good trip. We don't want to see her get a bad break, get caught behind horses, the same situation.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll leave that in the hands of Brian Hernandez come race day. I do like the jockey switch. Obviously, Leparoux has been riding fantastic down at Oaklawn Park, but BJ is Kenny's guy, especially with these Oaks and Derby preps as it goes. So looking forward to seeing Take Charge Milady get another swing at things. My top pick, and Kaylie, you have this one in third. Matt, I'm interested to hear your thoughts as well, but I like this number 9 horse, Princess Aaliyah. She won last time out pretty nicely at Oaklawn Park to break her maiden over a good listed track, but I just thought Dwayne Lucas has had all of his horses, whether it's Oaks preps or Derby preps, really cranked up and really going well at the right time. He's been in this game for quite some time, so he has the timing and everything down. And I think this one's just going to be rounding into a good form. And I like to see this one coming in off of constant buyer, progressions, comes in off of a 79. So a step forward off of that, I think puts her relatively close. Kaylie, I'll throw it out to you real quick. What were your thoughts as you had this one in third as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think that off that 79 buyer speed figure, she should be able to improve, and then she fits well with this group. She has some pedigree on her. She's the half to Eskimo Kisses, who won that Grade 1 Alabama, second in the Fairground Oaks, and she was fourth in the Kentucky Oaks. Her second dam is Winning Colors, who won the Kentucky Derby, et cetera, who was also trained by the coach. So this one popped off the page for a few different reasons. And she's a pretty attractive price at 12-1 on the morning line. And she also did break her maiden after, a jockey change that maybe the jockey suited her better. She got a better trip, and he's riding her back on Saturday. So that was another thing I liked. And I think that she has a lot of upside at 12-1, as opposed to a few others in here that are shorter prices or some questions. I think I'm pretty excited to see this one and how she can improve off that maiden win.
I'm with you, and I like the term that you use. This one has a lot of upside. I agree. I think we haven't, maybe seen the best of this 3-year-old gray filly yet. Matt, did you have any thoughts on the D. Wayne Lucas trainee here in the fantasy?
Well, if you're just a speed figures person alone, you're going to see that every race she's run a little bit faster, which is a positive thing. She actually defeated a runner last time named Plaza Q, and we have workouts on Oaklawn.com. And Plaza Q is one that has always been a very good workhorse. And I've always watched her and always liked her and thought to myself, wow, this filly's going to break her maiden, and she hasn't. But she ran second to Princess Aaliyah, who is going in the right direction, it appears. So last time out, she got things her own way. That 1 mile configuration here at Oaklawn, you get the short stretch. So the race ends at the 16th pole, a lot like Keeneland's short stretch. And that really aids some speed horses. But I like that she dug in on the rail. It was a good effort. And like I said, she's improving. So if you like her, I have no problems with her. I still think that a runner like Quiet Side or Take Charge My Lady, they're faster horses, at least from what we've seen. But if Princess Aaliyah's light bulb is turned on or it's turning on, there's reason to believe that she can run even better than she did last time. So I think she's, I don't want to say logical, but for lack of a better term, logical, because I agree with you both. There is upside to this runner, along with the fact that she has a brilliant pedigree to maybe be successful, especially as she goes on in her racing career.
Yeah, no doubt. That was really well put. And you mentioned the short stretch at Oaklawn Park, which, led this filly to victory last time out. Nick Juarez made a really strong move coming out of the turn, got that distance. And then, when she saw their other rivals, she kind of, re-engaged and kicked back on. But Nick Juarez had this horse in a great position to lose. So she's going to need, things to go her way, similar to the number 1, Take Charge My Lady. Going to need things to kind of work out and open up for her. But I think she can set a good trip breaking from the outside. Last one I want to talk about here is Kinsey Queen for Greg Compton. I wanted to give this one a look to, really pick things up if this race were to somehow fall apart. I feel pretty confident that Princess Aaliyah is going to be sent to the lead. I know there's some other speed in here. If things get going pretty hot early, this runner has been consistent in the mid-70s, so I'm not sure that we'll get, too much out of her. But the McKinsey has had a great start for his 2- and 3-year-old crops, so he keeps, throwing out winner after winner. So I wanted to give this one a look. Maybe they heat things up a little too much, and this is at least a proven consistent closer in a race where I didn't see too many that like to come from, well off of the pace.
I also think it's pretty interesting to bring up, not to go back again to Take Charge My Lady, but I think it's interesting that this is, we saw a couple others just run, but that this is the filly that he's sending to the fantasy. I know that there was some talk that he has this filly Decadent that I really like, and I was honestly hoping that he'd send here, but he sent this one instead. So I don't know. I really feel like this is Quiet Side's race, but I wouldn't be leaving this one off my tickets. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to dive into this late pick 5 sequence a little more, but I know the fantasy is not going to be a race where I'm going to be able to narrow down all that much. Matt, before we head on over to the Arkansas Derby, were there any other horses that caught your eye?
Well, I think in this race, most horses you can actually find an angle for. I think Princess M2 is a little bit interesting. Her 2-back maiden win was very, very good. And then she bounced, I think, off that race, wheeling back quickly. And she's had a couple of work since then, a little more spacing between races. So if she can bounce back, I think she's eligible. The numbers suggest on both the Ragazins and the buyers that she needs to improve. But I liked what I saw from her 2 starts ago. She showed a real nice kick. And she's got the pedigree to be really solid as a router. So with Johnny V aboard for the first time, that's always a positive. I suppose you could stay in the room if you didn't feel that maybe this was a filly that had much of a shot. But they're going to put him on. And like I said, I think she needs to improve. But she at least caught my eye. And again, I think she bounced last time out. I think she's better than how she ran in her last race, first start against Winners. And remember, Decadent won that race, as Kaylie mentioned. And Decadent was not even favored. Princess M2 was. And Decadent is okay, but from what I heard, there was a setback. She was going to run in this race, and then a setback caused them to pause on her a little bit. It's nothing serious. We'll see her back sooner rather than later, but just had to pass this race. So that's the news on Decadent.
I really appreciate that update on Decadent. Is obviously Kaylie, you're nodding your head because that's a filly that you really like, and that's an excellent point on Princess M2. The Johnny V booking definitely caught my eye as well. He's not really going to take many mounts that aren't live necessarily. So seeing him, ride this one in the fantasy for Phil D'Amato, an odd Phil D'Amato runner who's never run out on the West Coast, started at Churchill and then went to Oaklawn Park, and that's where she's done all of her running. So out of not this time, and they obviously win left, right, and center on any surface, any distance. So I'm curious to see this one. You mentioned it, bred to be a nice router. So we will see. That's the fantasy stakes. I went 9-1-3. Kaylie went 5-1-9. We will move on now to the Arkansas Derby, the Grade 1 $1.5 million Arkansas Derby. If I remember, $1.5 million now. You guys keep raising it. I struggle to keep up with the state of Arkansas racing, but I went 9-8-3. Kaylie went 8-9-6, and obviously the conversation has to start with this dazzling maiden winner, Cornucopian, who pretty much blew the doors off of all the rivals that she faced last time out. And I believe that was on Rebel Day, if I'm not mistaken, and then wheels right back into a Grade 1 Arkansas Derby Stakes for this one's second try to get this one in the starting gates on the first Saturday in May. Matt, is this a beatable favorite off of that romping maiden win?
Well, I think a horse like this always appears beatable when you've just got one start under the belt going from 6 furlongs to 1 1/8. There are a lot of obstacles he has to face here. Of course, going a route of ground from just that one sprint race, and not just a route of ground, but going the full 9 furlongs. The last time we saw a horse win a Kentucky Derby prep before the Derby was none other than Taba when making this move, going from 6 furlongs to 1 1/8. And was essentially under the Baffert training program at that point. So it's not that Bob can't get a horse ready to do this. But I also think, as talented as he is, and I would take the stand that he probably is the most raw talented horse in this race. The maiden win, just watching it visually on track, was as impressive as it could have been. And the gallop out was impressive too. It looks like this horse can run farther. I'm reading between the lines and thinking Bob wouldn't send this horse here to Arkansas, where he sent some of his best 3-year-olds for the Arkansas Derby, unless he thought this horse was that good. If he thought he's one of his best 3-year-olds, he could have run him Wood Memorial, maybe a little bit of an easier spot. So I think that looking at this, he's clearly, in my eyes, one of the horses to beat, possibly the one to beat, but I'm going to try to beat him with another top pick. I think he'll run well. I think even down the road, he could be the best horse, but I feel like at 7-5 on the morning line, he's going to get a lot of play. There's a difference between a top pick and a good bet, and you can like a horse but not necessarily think they're a good bet. I just don't feel he's a good bet in terms of looking for a horse that's going to be a little bit better value. So that's my basically whole spiel on him. I think he's very talented. He's going to work out a good trip. I would even go out to say he's the horse to beat off just such an impressive run. And we know how good these horses of Bob's can be when they run like that first out. And the pedigree suggests this runner can really be something nice. Half sibling to a Grade 1 1 1/8 Kentucky Coaching Club American Oaks winner in Guarana. Beatbox, who was a 1 1/8 turf horse, half to him, Grade 3 winner. There's another runner in the family, Magic Dance, who was Grade 2 place. So the pedigree says a lot, but I'm going to try to beat him on the win end. I'd use him in like a pick 5, but in terms of just a top pick, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I like it. I think you mentioned a key point there, and your top pick can be different from your best bet Top pick, I think the most likely winner of the race is, at least to me, the number 9 Cornucopian, but not a horse that's going to get, money at the windows for me in a, vertical play or just a straight win bet or anything like that, because I'm with you. In my pick 5, I'll use this one with maybe, my second choice, who we'll talk about here in just a moment. But I think off that win, I'm pretty high on Cornucopian. So I'm more excited than anything to see him, to see him run, hopefully run well, hopefully win. And it would just make for another good story, another fun story to kind of follow as we head into the first Saturday in May. But Kaylie, I'm going to go to you as we'll go to the number 8, your top pick, my second choice. And I'm sure Matt has this one up in his top 3 somewhere as well. But that's Cole Battle, who's gone back to back victories, all in Stakes Company, the last 2 coming at Oaklawn Park. Go ahead, Kaylie.
Yeah, the more I looked at this race, just to go to the cornucopian thing, I mean, if this horse is able to get the trip and the distance second time out, then everyone's running for second is really what I believe. But to put him on top at 7-5, everything you guys discussed is really my reason why I have him in second. I know I have a hard time endorsing a horse that has a lot of questions to answer, and a pretty big step up in not only distance but class. It is positive though to see that Guarana, she stretched out really, really early in her career, like in her second start, and then went around 2 turns in her third start. So from a pedigree standpoint and from a connection standpoint, it looks like this is the horse to beat. But I ultimately landed on Cole Battle, who I can make the strongest case for. The longer I looked at the race and tried figuring out who's going to work out a trip, this is a horse that just seems to work out a trip no matter what the trip is that he gets. This isn't even one that I've ever been super high on either, but I'm very impressed with this horse and his ability to workout trips in every single one of his dirt starts. I mean, he's undefeated. He's continuing to improve, and he is your third choice on the morning line. And with, a Baffert horse in here and then Sandman, I believe you're going to get a pretty decent price on this one that I'd feel comfortable betting him to win.
Yeah, right back to Matt's point of top pick versus, best bet in a race. I would say Cole Battle is going to have the best value as it comes to placing a bet, because you do have a horse like Sandman. It's going to take a lot of money. Cole Battle, although he's, well known on the Derby trail now, still kind of those lower level connections. But Matt, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I feel like visually watching this runner's last 2 races seems like the most mature kind of 3-year-old, certainly in this race, maybe even in the whole crop, just kind of is able to overcome, and Kaylie said it, make your own trip. What are your thoughts on Cole Battle heading into the Arkansas Derby?
Well, the first thing I want to note, a few different things. First of all, I'm pulling it up on my phone right here. I put a poll up, who wins the 2025 Arkansas Derby Saturday at Oaklawn. 533 votes have been cast. Cole Battle is 34% and Cornucopian is 33%. So it'll be very interesting just to note that. I know it's an extremely small sample size. 500 something votes is nothing compared to how many bets on the win end will be placed on these horses, but it'll be very interesting to see what the odds are. Because if the morning line odds are indicative of what the post-time odds are, then I would say Cole Battle's the best value in here. I watched him this morning gallop, and I sort of just watched him and sort of like cocked my head with a little smile on my face, because he's this little horse. But once he gets on the track and he actually does his work, it's like, okay, I know why this horse is the way he is, because he's just got that swagger about him. He likes running out on the track. He's not going to be flashy in the mornings, but he still looks good. He looks happy, full of himself. And the fact of the matter is, like, I was against this horse last time saying he's going to have to run big against a much bigger, better group in the Rebel and the Smarty Jones and the Springboard Mile. And he was just so push button and very impressive on a track, by the way, that was pretty speed favoring, and he was coming from 5-6 lengths off of it. He just feels like one of these horses. Will he hit a ceiling at some point? Probably, but he also just shows up. And I'd rather pick him knowing that he's probably going to show up, especially with the way he looks this morning, looks happy, ready to run again. He's going to try hard. Is a 1.125 miles his best distance? I question if he wants to go 1.25 miles, 1.125 miles, or maybe he's a mile or 1.16 miles type, but he just shows up. So with that in mind, I think he's going to work out a good trip. I think he's going to show up. And I would rather sit here and pick him and him run second to Cornucopian, who's not going to be any value, than pick Cornucopian, lose to Cole Battle, and say, I just got tricked again. And I picked a horse at lower odds that had not nearly as much experience, maybe better raw talent, but not nearly as much experience. When this horse is seasoning, he's got conditioning, he's got everything to indicate he's ready to run a good race here. So that's why I picked him. I think there's a lot of upside with him. I'm not looking for the winner of the Kentucky Derby. I'm looking for the winner of the Arkansas Derby. And yeah, if Cornucopian, I agree with Kaylie. If he runs back to his maiden win, something like it, which won't be easy, but if he does, he's probably winning. But that's a big if. And I think this horse here has shown that he's just a real hard trier, and he's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I like it. It could be something as simple as, you mentioned stretching from 6 furlongs out to 9. In this race, it takes a lot out of a horse. You have to have a lot into a horse in order for them to get that far. It could be that Cornucopian's the best horse in the race, but Cole Battle just has that conditioning. You mentioned the push button effect. The fact that Cole Battle and Vargas were able to work out the trip they did from the rail last time out just shows the maturity of this horse, and did really well to, catch Matticat Road, in the kind of deep stretch of that race, and just really power home and look like a good thing. So Cole Battle, obviously a worthy top pick, and certainly going to create, I would say, present the best value likely from a betting scenario in this race, as opposed to your morning line favorite, the number 9 Cornucopian. Kaylie, I'll go to you as we're going to talk about the third choice kind of overall in the wagering. That's the number 6 Sandman.
Yeah, from a class perspective, this horse, obviously, I couldn't leave him out of my top 3, and he should be able to work out, a better trip. But I feel like I find myself saying that about this horse every time. I believe that he could be a major player come Kentucky Derby Day if he continues to improve, but I just can't come up with multiple excuses for, all of his last 2 starts. I could in the Southwest, and then the Rebel, he did come flying, but I don't really think that the pace is going to be necessarily like super fast here as well. Like you would think it is on paper with Cornucopian in the race and Speed King, but Cornucopian is not going to have to fly like he did, in his first race. So I don't really think that the pace is going to be so hot that this horse is going to be able to win. I can see it. But also going back to Cole Battle, you bring up how he's like a small horse, which is another reason why I actually kind of like that. He's pretty athletic and he's able to go in between spots and work out trips no matter what, and ends with great energy every single time. Whereas Sandman, he's never really able to work out the right trip, and it might come with time and maturity, but I just, I want to see him be able to do that before I put him on top. But obviously he very much fits in the race from a class and a speed figure perspective.
Yeah, I agree. He certainly fits on speed figures, certainly fits on ability. Just hasn't quite, gotten the chance to finish off some of those races in his last 2 as he tries to, get in the winner's circle. Matt, what were your thoughts on Sandman? I don't know what to do with this horse anymore. I gave him a couple chances in the Rebel in the Southwest, but he just didn't quite. Obviously, the Southwest I'm willing to excuse because you had a terrible break in there, but you come back and you really run the exact same trip, and you're just not able to quite catch those runners that were up front and kind of got the jump. Do you think maybe Derby Day is going to work more towards his favor, and we're kind of looking for another maybe placing effort here?
Well, I think Kaylie really just sort of said it perfectly from my point of view as well. I'm in complete agreement with everything you said. I think he's one of these horses that he needs things to fall into his lap a little bit. I would agree with Kaylie that maybe some of it has to do with maturity. Some of it just has to do with bad luck. He is a bigger framed horse, and he's not a horse that appears you want to start and stop with him. He had to stop in the very beginning of the Southwest because he stumbled so bad. So he was going to be placed towards the rear, at least a few lengths closer anyway, and ran on for second. It was a very good effort, But I think last time out, even on a speed bias track, he still got a very fast pace to run into, and he just sort of grinded along for third. I think he's a horse that I hate to make this prediction, but he's one of these horses that one or two races, some big race, he's going to show up and things are going to fall right for him. Maybe it is the Kentucky Derby, but I think you're going to see a lot of people chasing a horse like this, and he's going to be around all the time, but he's not going to win all the time, because I think that he needs the right scenario to win, unless if we see improvement from him. So that's sort of my argument there. I think this horse is very classic distance type of horse. He wants to run long, but he's also not a horse that's like a grinder, like a Giacomo type. I still think he's got a little kick in his best efforts, but I just think that other horses can get jumps on a horse like him, and sometimes I think he'll have a tough time running down, top class horses. If a horse like Cornucopian can go 1 1/8 and run a 101 buyer again, honestly, Sandman is not fast enough. He hasn't shown us he's anywhere fast enough to run by a horse like that. So I wouldn't pick him thinking that in a race like the Arkansas Derby, we're probably going to see somebody put up a 95, 98, maybe 100. He has to run a little bit faster.
Exactly. No, I like everything you said there. This is a runner that maybe the long Churchill down stretch kind of is what works for him. Maybe he's kind of able to get going and not have to stop and start, because you guys both mentioned big horse. It's obviously tough to get them going once you have to put the brakes or tap on the brakes or anything like that. Matt, were there any other runners in the Arkansas Derby that caught your eye, maybe either at a bit of a price or a horse that you just wanted to talk about?
Well, I think a Publisher, the maiden, is I wouldn't say intriguing on the win end necessarily, but he is a horse that has always shown talent in the mornings. I've watched his workouts. Tistastic, who won the Louisiana Derby, he's not a great morning horse in general, but this horse would handily outwork Tistastic in the mornings when they'd hook up together. And I've said it on a couple other podcasts. Yeah, you see a maiden go in one Derby prep race, maybe two. It's very rare to see a maiden go 3 races in a row in a Derby prep. And I don't know if this is an owner decision. I don't know if it's Steve thinking something like, hey, this horse is really good, and I think I can find more with him. I'm not getting everything out of him. I don't know the answer to that. But I will say that adding blinkers is interesting, because last time out, he was a little bit farther off, even off a fast pace, than I thought he would be. And maybe they're trying to get him a little more involved. And he ran 4th at the end of the day, came on, ran fine, I thought. So it's almost like, even though he's a maiden, he's not really a maiden in the sense of his talent is a lot better than the average maiden. And the fact of the matter is, last time we saw him in a maiden race, he ran second to American Promise, who came back to win the Virginia Derby in very impressive fashion, albeit that was a 1 1/8 going one turn, a very oddly configured 9 furlong race that you won't see in anywhere in America other than over there at Colonial. But nonetheless, Publisher is one that I would not necessarily see that M in his PP's maiden and think that means he has no shot to do anything in here, because I don't think he's an average maiden. I think he's a very nice horse, and I actually do feel that he's one that could improve a little more time here. They're sort of scratching the surface, but not quite yet. They're getting closer, and I think there's good work for him to be showing us at some point.
Yeah, we saw this similarly. I liked Publisher a lot last time out when Kaylie, myself, and Jackson covered the Rebel Stakes Day at Oaklawn Park. So I wanted to give Publisher a shot. Obviously, I think he was like 12-1 or so on the morning line, went off just under that, like 11-1. I got to give this one another look underneath. Obviously, it's a vote of confidence that Flavien Prat sticks aboard Publisher with all of his other, mounts and opportunities. He is riding for Steve Asmussen, which he doesn't do a whole lot. So it makes you think, he felt something under this horse that maybe we haven't quite seen yet. I'm with you. I think the blinkers on is going to have this one maybe a little bit closer. If I had to guess, are probably trying to get back to, the placement he had in that maiden second place finish to American Promise, who you mentioned came out to win the Virginia Derby out at Colonial. So, if he sits a bit of a closer trip, I think that gives him a really good shot. I don't think with his last 2 running styles, I don't think that's going to be it for him. He's going to, be coming from the clouds, kind of like Sandman. And in a race like this, where we're not really sure where all the pace, if there's going to be enough pace for everything to melt down, he's going to need to be a little closer if he wants a shot. And obviously he's going to need to run a career best as well. So I like him maybe a little bit more underneath, but I don't see why he can't get, a third or maybe even second if he really steps up and maybe the top couple of the top three betting choices don't really show up.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot that he's 6-1. I mean, he's more than half the price of the winner of the Southwest is in this race. So definitely speaks to his ability, as well as the blinkers coming on. Hopefully he gets more involved. But yeah, this is a horse that I probably would have fourth for sure.
Yeah, one that I certainly like. But this should be a very excellent rendition of the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby Stakes. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. Before we let you go, is there anybody else in any of the races that we should keep an eye on Saturday's card?
So in race number 5, there's a horse named number 8, Nikolai. Not number 8, Nikolai. His number is 8 in the race. Nikolai is his name, and I like his workouts. I watched his workout of the gate on March 14th. He showed a lot of talent there. He was a little more hard set in that 59 and change bullet work to get some fitness into him. Tommy Vance is one that sometimes second and third time starters do a little bit better, and that's my concern. And I'd like to see a little more foundation in the work pattern here, but I know this horse can run based on what I've seen. So he's one I'm going to pick, Nikolai, over Whitley, number 7, who's a second-time starter in this race. Actually, that's Conway. There's 2 divisions of this race. I'm sorry. And this is the second division. Okay. Whitley, I think's in the first division. So Nikolai is going to be my pick. And then, in the third division, I'm actually picking another horse there, Dawson James. He ran very well behind a horse I really like, Touchdown Arkansas, and then he came back in this third race. Yeah, and Whitley is the second pick. So I would do a Dawson James Whitley exacta in race 3. And then in race 5, I'm going to pick Nikolai. It's going to be a fun day. And we also have a couple open maiden races that we've got some good horses, I think, in there as well. So all together, it's a great card, guys. And we're really excited over here in Hot Springs.
We're excited here from our respective places in New York and San Diego. So I can't wait to see it. Obviously, best of luck this weekend. Nothing but the best to you, Matt. Thank you for joining us again. Have a great rest of your week and hope to talk to you soon.
Pleasure as always, guys. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You as well. All right. Big thanks to Matt Dinerman, as always, for taking the time out of his busy schedule to join us. That was the Arkansas Derby. Let me get those past performances off the screen one more time with the picks. I went 9-8-3 cornucopian over Coal Battle, and then Publisher in third, and Kaylie went 8-9-6 Coal Battle, cornucopian, and Sandman. We'll move on now to the late pick 5 at Aqueduct for this Saturday, which is an incredible card. We're ending it with a 14 horse state bred maiden field, but we'll get there. We'll build up to that. Right now, we got to start with race number 7, where I went 5-6-9. Kaylie, you went 5-11-9. So we're starting off on the same foot with the number 5, your morning line favorite, La Banquera. Came out, last time and really just blew the doors off with the competition and ran to that horse's effort 2 back and is the winner of 3 straight by just open length. So are we both going to be starting the sequence off with a single?
Yeah, this is definitely a single. I mean, this horse has been just on a roll since being in the Linda Rice barn. And I think the extra half a furlong, should make no difference. This horse has won dominantly every single start, or at least, the last 3, and definitely is, a pretty strong single in the sequence. Way the fastest horse on paper, and has run some figures that no one in here has really come close to as well. And should also get the setup as, the best speed on the paper as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. This runner has been just dominant in the last 3. 2 of those being state bred, 1 against restricted claimers, but still to win the way this one did, to get the figures this one has, going to be tough. This one's in protected company again, allowing $16,000 because of that start 3 back. So Linda Rice has this horse placed pretty beautifully, and I think this one's going to be tough to get by. I'm going to try and play something vertical, probably play an exacta here with the number 6 Kaylie start underneath. I thought this one just had a shot, has been chasing some slow paces. I think there is a decent amount of other pace in the race. I don't know that any of them are going to run with La Banquera, or if they're going to, really alter La Banquera's ability to, sit a good trip. but I do think it has the ability to, make that other pace collapse. And I think Kaylie Start can really pick up the pieces late. Hoping for a decent price. 10-1 on the morning line is fair. And then Regime Mirage in the saddle. So hopefully, hopefully this one can pick up the pieces. Has a couple good seconds at some open levels versus allowance and optional claiming company. So comes in here a little bit fresh, maybe just makes a run late and just does enough to grab second. So I'm going with the 6, Kaylie Start for me. Kaylie, we'll go to the number 11. Your second choice Will Be Famous for Brad Cox.
Yeah, in a race that I viewed sort of like, the number 5, La Banquera is probably just going to get loose up on the front end. I think that this horse will be able to at least go with her a little bit. She draws well to the outside. She doesn't, have any speed really to her outside. I think the number 12 is really as far as it goes, but draws well in here and has good speed on paper, has improved since joining, the Brad Cox barn. And this one will be sitting close enough to La Banquera, or hopefully to at least, be a part of the mix early in a race that doesn't have a lot of speed besides the number 5. This was the other one that looked good on paper to me and is coming into this off of 2 straight wins as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Brad Cox claimed this one last time out and immediately protected her, which is always, a vote of confidence. This is a Florida bred of all runners and is going to be taking on open company once again, but is in a good spot. So could certainly get a piece underneath. Real quickly, I'm just checking the comments. Delmar Dennis, thanks for tuning in. Weather update. So we talked to Matt before he joined the show off air. Weather's been basically just doing the equivalent of a cartwheel. As it has changed pretty much every time we've looked at it. So he was thinking and projecting, and I mean, I can look and say the same thing. Neither of us are weathermen, but our best guess is, there might be some moisture in the track, but I think we're still a little too far out. Always something to keep an eye on. Weather out in Arkansas is always changing, and it always changes quickly. So I wouldn't trust anything you see right now, and just, keep checking it and, keep updating the weather app basically. But David, thanks for joining us in here. Bob loves the dirt track at OP. I think this is referring to Cornucopian. I never see him sending horses to Aqueduct or Gulfstream Park. That's true. He likes to go take the road through Arkansas. That being said, I believe I know he has a runner this weekend in the Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park. I believe he's going to have a runner in I know he's going to have a runner in the Santa Anita Derby next week at Santa Anita. And then I am fairly certain he's going to have a runner at Aqueduct for the Wood Memorial. So he is hitting every single one of these Derby preps. The only one he missed was the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway Park. But other than that, he's hitting basically all of them across the country. We're going to see how many runners he ends up with in the starting gate the first Saturday in May. But he's certainly going to take his fair share of swings. I think I want to say it was gaming or getaway car, but I might need to check on who is going to the Wood Memorial.
I think it's gaming.
I thought so too, but I want to double check just to be certain.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we'll talk about the number 9, Jackson's Dixie. Kaylie, you and I both have this horse underneath in third. Blinkers on for this one. Did you think this was another one that could just pick up the pieces late?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the horse has also won in a couple of different ways as well. I mean, won on the lead before. Granted, it wasn't, the fastest race ever, but still showed pretty decent speed that day and has sat close in the start after that as well. In the last 2, wasn't as close up on the pace, but now is getting blinkers on. So I think that should probably inject some speed. And this horse ran on well to finish second to La Banquera last time out as well. So that was something that stuck out to me. Hopefully can replicate a similar trip on Saturday, but this is one that I saw definitely picking up pieces out of the group.
I agree. And from what I can see, it was Rodriguez who might ship over for the Wood Memorial, which would be even more interesting as I looked that up. But yeah, Jackson's Dixie, I thought last time out had a really good effort, showed a really good late kick. Time Form has his last 2 races a lot faster than the Buyers, looking at a 101 and a 104. So that puts that horse around 7 points higher. If you do the kind of rough conversion of like minus 20, that puts him, right around an 84 last time out, which, gets him closer to the number 5 La Banquera. But I think, again, this is just one of those races where maybe you just have to punch a cold exotic, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to try and create some good value under La Banquera, because I think you're going to, I think the morning line is 7-5, and I think that's still a dream. I think we're looking at 3-5, maybe even lower come post time, just based off those last 3 dominating wins. But the number 9 Jackson's Dixie certainly deserves a look. So does the number 6 Kaylie Start, and Kaylie's second pick, number 11, Will Be Famous. That's race number 7. It's going 6.5 furlongs for starter allowance, fillies and mares, $16,000 starter allowance, I should say. We'll go on to race number 8. One more time for race number 7. My picks are 5, 6, 9. Kaylie 5, 11, 9. On to race number 8. I went 9, 4, 5. Kaylie went 1, 5, 9. So we're still both a little bit similar here. We'll start with you on the rail. Motel Patel, I believe is maybe how you pronounce this one thing.
It's just Motel Patel, I think. But this one really jumped off the page at me, honestly. I mean, you have 2 short price horses in here. America's Back, and then the number 9 as well, who are probably, 2 likely winners. But I can see this one being able to improve coming in here. This making his first start for the Rob Atras barn, who hits at a high percentage with horses that just joined his barn first time out. This horse has shown really good speed on paper. And especially last time out, and also since switching back to the dirt, switched to turf really quick. And also this one was running against Open Company as a New York bred at Fairgrounds. So now is going up against other New York breds and restricted company. So that's a big change, and has really good speed on paper, and gets Carmouche aboard for the first time, who's going to help get him out of the 1 hole pretty aggressively. And that also last time out was his first try over a fast track. Before he was either on the turf or on an off track. So that was something that also stuck out. I think this one can probably improve a bit and is pretty attractive at 6-1 on the morning line.
I agree. Yeah, this is one I gave a little bit of a look to. I thought the rail could be tough, but if Kendrick really sends out towards the lead, this one is certainly capable of getting it. I clicked on the backtrack to look at this one's last race because Sergeant Sully was a pretty well-met horse, and you can see big improvement by her. This one's a half to, I believe it's Matoli and Hot Rod Charlie. So obviously a ton of breeding in the pedigree for Sergeant Sully. Went out to the lead, lone lead, and just got swallowed up by Ancient World, who was so much the best in this race. I was out in Vegas with everybody for NHC, and this horse blew the break and still won pretty much under wraps for Jose Ortiz. So I'd keep an eye out for Ancient World. I think this might be a bit of a live maiden race that Motel Patel is coming out of. So I like that pick a lot. 6-1 down on the rail, certainly going to create some good value. And you mentioned Rob Atras and Carmouche do some excellent work when they team up together. And this one gets to face New York bred company instead of Open for the first time. So all that to say that I did end up going with the number 9, Tiote, for Brad Cox, this authentic colt. I just thought this one got the best of the draw. I think if the 1 and the 9 maybe were switched, maybe I look at it a lot differently. But I thought Tiote looks really tough to beat here from the outside. Debuting at 7 furlongs is a tough distance. Cuts back a little bit here for the second try. Had some good speed in the debut against state-bred runners. And Brad Cox, for as good as he is first time out, he's just as good, if not maybe a little bit better for those second time out dirt sprint runners. So I want to give him another shot. I know we're not going to get I'm not going to get a great price on this one, but I do think this, at least to me, was the most likely winner, just looking at how he projects to sit, probably the best trip. And I think that might play a large amount of importance in here.
Yeah, I agree. I have this one third, but I would put, my top 3 are not being left off of my pick 5 ticket. I see this as another very likely winner. Connections, obviously, that you just can't ignore. And also, like you said, ran well at a pretty tricky distance first time out, and draws way better on Saturday than on debut. So
Yeah, you mentioned it. Draws a lot better. So I'll give this one another look. 7-2, in my opinion, would be a fair price. I don't know that we'll get that. Maybe 5-2, and that's pretty borderline for a second-time starter out of a sire. I don't really love with his his crop so far, but he can certainly throw out a few winners. So I'll give this one a look. And Brad Cox,
they're starting to pop up.
They are. I was going to say Brad Cox and his authentic offspring have really started to do well recently. We got to talk about the number 5, a horse that I have in third. Kaylie, you have in second. I believe we talked about this horse on the debut, maybe even the last time this horse ran as well. But I believe one of us picked America's Back on debut there, where it was another Vakinda common race, as was his last one, where Vakinda finally broke his maiden. So you're going with this one right back. I mean, you got to love the improvement, start 1 to start 2. So you're looking for another jump in race three for this one's.
Yeah, I think so. And this one's, a lot more lightly raced than Vakinda was when he won last time. But yeah, I think I actually had this horse on top last time out. I didn't think that it was going to be the day for Vakinda, but Vakinda's a very good horse that ran very consistently up until breaking his maiden as well. And I'm pretty sure ran back in an allowance race, right?
Just ran back this past weekend, and I believe ran 3rd or 2nd.
Yeah, so I mean, ran pretty well and definitely didn't, I don't think, regress or a little. But, facing winners for the first time, I think that horse is pretty decent. That beat America's Back last time out. This horse has done nothing wrong. Last time out, he was just caught by Vakinda as well. So has good speed, draws well again, and also gets Jose Lascano aboard. So that's, also a positive to see. And this horse should be able to sit the right trip as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the Aqueduct dirt track, looking at the fractions, looking at the times, it's pretty tough this time of year because that track is really deep. It's not going to play, like the speedways that we'll see at Keeneland or on the West Coast at Santa Anita or Gulfstream Park. So, seeing 48 to the half can be a little bit misleading, but he had an open length kind of lead last time and wasn't quite able to see it out. Mike Maker hasn't had, the hottest Aqueduct winter meeting. So that's why I only picked this horse in 3rd. We both kind of seemingly agree as this is more of an underneath kind of pick for both of us, as you landed on the 1, I landed on the number 9, but certainly one that warrants some respect. Field best buyer last time out and is building upon those efforts. So could very well break through. This is a really deep and contentious group of maidens here. So it could really go anywhere. I also went right to the inside to the number 4, Toga Dan, for Jorge Abreu and Eric Cancel. I thought blinkers on. This colt showed some speed last time out in the same race that America's Back, and I believe 4 or 5 others come out of that same race. But Toga Dan went off at 18 to 1 that day, is going to be back 12 in the 12 to 1 area. I don't know, didn't look super comfortable last time out. Tough when you're losing by 14 lengths, and the number 5 America's Back is also in here, and there's some others that are finished in front of him last time out. But I think the blinkers on can make a difference. Is the move the barn of Jorge Abreu has been very successful with. Hopefully Cancel just has this one in a contending spot. I'm hoping for like a nice clear trip, and maybe we just haven't seen the best of this horse. I want to give a look to a horse that's going to be a good price. Looks like 2 back was his best kind of workout on the page. I have to do some more digging, but I would imagine that that workout probably came in blinkers, and then they just kind of kept him on for this effort. But I want to go back and do some more digging. It's sometimes hard to find those Belmont workouts. But Toga Dan, I like this one at a bit of a price underneath to maybe surprise and hit the board.
Yeah, I thought that one was interesting too. And then I think that it's the number 2, Sanzio, who, I wouldn't be jumping to put on my pick 5 tickets, but this one, I think that you can see a bit of an improvement from come Saturday. This one had a bit of a troubled start on debut and, works well and, has pretty decent pedigree as well, that I think this is one that you can see a little bit of improvement from on Saturday.
Yeah, without a doubt, this is one that could definitely take a step up in this runner's second career start. For race number 8, the State Bred Maiden race, I went 9-4-5. Kaylie went 1-5-9. Just because we talked about the fantasy and the Arkansas Derby, we won't have our pick 5 tickets, but if I was to play one, I'd probably go 1-4-5-9. Maybe I'd look to add one more, but I feel pretty confident with our top 3 and that number 4. I think we could get by here. Probably just really the 1, 5, and 9 because the 4 is going to need a huge jump up, but either way, a deep and competitive field, and we're only going to get more into that as we go to this race number 9, 6 furlong starter allowance, $10,000 race. I went 1-4-10. Kaylie went 4-10-9. So we are thinking on the same page here. I'll start with you, Kaylie. We'll go to the number 4, Quick Hammer. This is clearly the horse to beat. This horse came back last time out after losing the jockey at the start, 2 back. Came right back out to kind of pick up where he left off. Beyer came back a little light, but the time form kind of matched up with the 3 back victory. So what did you make of this one? Clearly another one you think highly of to have this one on top.
Yeah, this is another one that I'd probably be looking to single in the sequence. I think, has the best speed on paper, and I don't really see it likely that anyone's going to really go with this horse or pressure him enough to cost him. He's also kind of dropping in class technically as well, and is really moving in the right direction since joining the Linda Rice barn. Like you said, 2 back, you can kind of, obviously toss that. And then granted that race, he came back and ran pretty well last time out. So I view this as a pretty strong single in the sequence.
I like it. I don't know that I'll single this horse, but I will be using this one. I just need to see at least one more effort similar to how this one showed last time out. He's going to have to prove me wrong. He'll be on my tickets for all my horizontal wagers, but there's still, that 96 Beyer really just sticks out to me. I know he came back with the 82, but again, that was, kind of a lone lead. So he is kind of the speed of the speed. He should find himself again in the exact same position. You mentioned he's getting a bit of a class drop, all things considered, into this allowance company for $10,000 allowance runners. So one I'm going to have on my tickets, but one I'm going to be using along with some others. One of those being the number 1 High Tide. This one used to be a marathon runner on turf and is now sprinting on dirt. Obviously, that's quite the change, but this one claimed by Fernando Abreu out of the Rudy Rodriguez barn. Just won last time out, going a mile here at Aqueduct in a $15,000 open claimer. One is the favorite that day. I just like this one's running style, and I think, cutting back the 2 furlongs back to 6 could benefit this one. Maybe if things heat up, maybe if someone tries to go and pressure Quick Hammer, things kind of fall apart that last furlong or so. So I look for High Tide. I like that Manny Franco's sticking aboard for the fifth time in 6 mounts, excuse me. But I think the cutback should help. This one's likely going to be underneath, but I think the value is going to be there to put a nice win bet on. So that's kind of how I'll play this one. I'll play it kind of 1-4. But another one that we saw, as I'll be pretty deep into pick 5, I just meant kind of vertically. But another one that you and I both liked is the number 10, Bregiol. I forget how this one's pronounced, but why don't you take it away with this number 10 horse?
Yeah, this one has been running really well since returning to Aqueduct. In his last 3 starts, ran very decently, and another one that's kind of taking a step down in class in terms of the level of allowance. And this one, I think, can sit a nice trip. Is probably going to come picking up pieces at the end. Last time out, he goes into a fast pace, which we're projected to have here. The pace kind of collapsed in that race, but in the start prior, he closed into a fast pace as well, and the pace did not collapse that day. So that was a positive, and that was his best effort in a while there, where he got a 77 Beyer speed figure, ran back a 76 after. So clearly stacks up pretty nicely with this group, and one that should be picking up pieces.
Without a doubt. And if you follow our fellow co-host Jackson's angle of paired up Beyer tops, this one has pretty much done that with the 76 and the 77. So you look for that kind of jump forward in the race after. But yeah, you mentioned that there's going to be a lot of pace in here. And as I kind of scroll through, the number 9 obviously has some early foot. The number 8 can be kind of forward, and at 50-1, I'd imagine maybe that's kind of the only way, they send this horse to hope that they even have a shot. Number 6, Funny Joke for Rudy Rodriguez off the claim. You'd have to imagine a lot of these are going to go, knowing that the number 4, Quick Hammer, certainly has one way of going, and that's his best way, and that's going to the front. But you have the 3 and the 6 horse that could press him early, so things could heat up pretty considerably on the front end. So, I respect number 4, Quick Hammer, as do you, Kaylie. I did want to use some others from coming off the pace. Last one we'll talk about, we're going to go out to the number 9 horse, Baracho, another horse that I just spoke about as being likely part of that early pace, but one you have in third, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
I might honestly take back what I said about that horse being a single. I, singled earlier, so it really would just depend on how expensive my ticket gets, depending on how many I use in the maidens. But if it's not too much, I probably won't single in this leg because of the presence of a horse like this that, can honestly, you don't really know what to expect. Clearly has really good speed on paper, especially last time out, got an 81 buyer. Prior to that, ran an 83 at one point in similar fashion. And that was his first time at Aqueduct, last time out. So he got a trip over the track, ran well to run second, and is going to be a major pace presence on Saturday. If he's able to sit right off of Quick Hammer, maybe he could kind of sit an ideal trip, similar to how he's run in the past. So
yeah, I don't hate this pick at all. Jamie Ness has had a really good Aqueduct meet, especially heating up over the last couple of weeks. So, obviously he ships horses here for a reason. So
yeah, and then
go ahead.
Sorry, and then Grey Wing, who he finished second to last time out, improved off that effort and got a career high, I'm pretty sure, of an 84 when he stepped up to allowance company or optional. Yeah, next time out. So that was also, not a negative to see.
Without a doubt, that's another great point to bring up. The lost to a next out winner who also improved the buyer speed figure. Baracho certainly deserves a really close look. I found it tough with this runner. I gave this one a look. I just thought, the nine's best way of going is going to be to kind of push the pace. And I don't know if that's going to be end up, having Baracho kind of trip out in that spot and be able to kind of get first jump and maybe nobody else closes at the flat 6 furlongs. Maybe if this was 6.5, I definitely would have been against him. But at the flat 6, I gave him a really strong look because if he goes and pushes Quick Hammer, maybe Quick Hammer has a bounce kind of, waiting in him somehow or some way. And Baracho could certainly be there to get the jump on everybody else. So one I would definitely consider at a fair price of 4-1. So that is race number 9. I went 1-4-10. Kaylie went 4-10-9. We'll move on now to race number 10. If I can scroll up to the top, there are so many runners. I just can't seem to. So next race, we're going a mile. It's for the boys. Starter allowance, $16,000 once again. I went 2-5-10. Kaylie went 10-9-5. Kaylie, why don't we start with you? We'll go out to the number 10 horses. We're going a mile here. Another one that you and I both kind of see, make a case for this one. You obviously a little bit stronger than me, but coming off of a very nice 91 buyer last time out.
Yeah, I put this horse on top. He's probably the one that I'm, most likely to bet to win if I'm able to get that price come post time compared to the others. I think the mile distance should suit this horse, or does suit this horse very well. He won at this distance 4 starts back, and was sitting right off of a horse that set some pretty fast fractions that day as well. And then there's a few horses in that race that have come out to improve as well, like Liberty to Bayou. I always think I'm saying that horse's name wrong. Came back to win both of his next 2 starts, one being against Allowance Company. And this is number 10, is unlimited potential, has good early speed to get this horse in the mix, but should be able to finish up strongly as well, like we saw in his last start. So I think that he's one that could sit a nice trip if things get a little bit too heated, and also has good speed to put himself in the mix as well.
I agree. And more than anything, I think he just fits at this level. This protected starter allowance, but just won an open $50,000 claimer, had a nice second in the optional claimer, and then that starter allowance for $50,000 looking for back in November. So he's kind of just found his friends, I think. And the mile distance certainly seems to fit him best. I know he has the career best 92 buyer going around 2 turns at Saratoga, but if you look at the time form, I think the buyer was way too high on that, with the time form being a 95 and the buyer being a 92. So that would probably lend me to believe that the figure was maybe a little bit lower. But all of his recent form has been, kind of the opposite, where the 91 buyer, you take away the 20 or you add 20 points and you're still a little bit shy of that 117 time form. So there's a chance that race was even better than it looked. And more than anything, Unlimited Potential showed a different dimension in being able to pass runners and win. I remember I was watching this race. It must have been in Vegas, because March 14th, I think that's the weekend we were all out there, and had the entry mate, and we're like, okay, well, whichever one gets the lead has got to win, because, Unlimited, neither could pass a horse and win. And sure enough, Unlimited Potential passed a bunch of horses and ended up winning by daylight. So maybe it's just, 12th start, this horse's light bulb was finally kind of turned on. So one I wanted to give a look to underneath, another race where I'm definitely going to be spreading pretty deep in here. But my top pick, I did go with the number 2 Legal Deal for Horacio De Paz and Kendrick Carmouche. I thought this one deserved a look. I liked the win last time out. I know it was only, claimed $32,000, but steps into a protected spot here. His races at a mile definitely fit, and they definitely fit well. Whether it was this one or the race 3 back with the 87 buyer with that voided claim, both of those running styles are exactly what I'm looking for here. I think there is a decent amount of other speed. I don't know what Unlimited Potential's plan is going to be this time out, now that they've kind of shown his ability to, pass some horses and win. So maybe that makes him a little bit more tactical. But either way, I think this horse has the finish and has that ability to get there at that 1-turn mile distance. So I want to give this one a look. Horacio De Paz and Kendrick Carmouche, they team up, and they are successful more times than not, it would appear. And I can think of a handful just this past week where they teamed up and found the winner's circle together. So I want to give the number 2 Legal Deal a strong look at 6-1. I'll go to the number 5, a horse that you and I both have somewhere, Skylander, a horse that, we again have talked about, I think, a couple times on this show. I'll throw it out to you as you have this horse in third.
Yeah, this is your morning line favorite, rightfully so, and honestly should get the pace setup he needs, unlike he did in his last start. And in the start prior at the same distance, this horse was able to close into the pace and did so at a higher level allowance race as well. So I think that this one, obviously he's our morning line favorite, fits very well in this race and is going to come picking up pieces at the end as well. I did find a way to pick against him on top, as did you, with the horse that's a bit of a better price, but he surely is the horse to beat here, I think, and should honestly get a pretty good setup with some pace to close into as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. I mean, 3 back was at this exact level in the starter allowance, $16,000, and won by open lengths there. Mm-hmm. The time form has been really consistent. His buyers have been fairly consistent, but more importantly, you mentioned it. Last time out, he really had no shot to win that race, chasing that slow of a pace. They kind of just ran around there, chasing behind Ridgewood Runner. That was at a much higher level. That was open, optional claiming 62, non-winners of 2 other than. This is a starter allowance for $16,000. He won versus that allowance open company again, as you mentioned. I think he gets the pace set up, but I also think at this mile, he's brought into the race a little bit more, and I think that helps him. He clearly kind of does best where the majority of his wins have come at this 1-turn mile distance. So I'm excited to see him run in this spot. 3-1, he is your morning line favorite, as you mentioned. So I don't know that you're going to get great value, but he's definitely going to be on my horizontal tickets, because I think even at 5-2 or so, he's still going to present a great amount of value. I don't know what happened to Kaylie. I assume maybe her internet could have bugged out, but she's back just like that. So not even for a moment was she gone. But yeah, the number 5 Skylander, I don't know what the value is going to be there for a win bet, but in the horizontals, I think we're finding prices elsewhere. So one I want to include, just didn't want to use this one on top.
Completely agree. And yeah, I think I had Wi-Fi issue, or my page wasn't responding, something, but
that's all good. Now that you're back with us, we'll go to the number 9, Garuvan, a horse that I used to be a really big fan of. I don't know what happened, but I kind of fell off this one's train, and he has bitten me in the ass in his last 2 victories there, as I did not have him. I had him 4 back, and then for some reason after that, I stopped betting him. But again, he's improved time and again since switching into the Steven Shower barn. So he's having an excellent meet, by the way. 7 in the money finishes, 4 wins from only 8 starters. So 50% win rate. And I forget what percent that is in the money, but after being 0 for 6 last year, now 4 for 8 at this meeting. So what'd you like about the number 9, Garuvan?
Yeah, I mean, this horse is in really good recent form. Definitely not picking him because of that 99 buyer speed figure, but even if you take that one out, fits obviously very well in this race as well. And she get the pace setup that he needs for his running style. So I thought that honestly, this was another one that I, ranked higher than the morning line favorite. He's not at much of a bigger price, but I think that I see him sitting probably mid pack, like fourth or fifth, and being able to make up ground in the late stages, and one that really stocks up nicely figures wise.
Without a doubt, the last 2 wins at 7 furlongs were certainly, eye opening, I would say. And just for him to be protected in this spot at least shows a nice vote of confidence from the trainer's perspective. So he's not taking as big of a class drop as some of the others in here. The 1-turn mile, maybe I have a bit of a question mark about, just because I think he's almost better the further off the pace he is. And at the 7 furlongs, I think that fit him. So he'll be on my tickets. I just didn't have enough confidence to have him in my top 3, but I will be betting him this weekend because he's bitten me too many times and his figures are too consistent now that I can, and he's, in a routine in the new barn of Stephen Shower. So I'm going to go ahead and trust that they figured this horse out. So I'll include him on my tickets. I just wanted to kind of go some different ways, but I went 2-5-10 in here. Kaylie, you went 10-9-5, another deep and contentious race, but nothing compared to this nightcap in race number 11. We're going 14 horses deep. Only other place you really see that is Turfway Park, maybe Oaklawn as well. But 6 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies, state bred. I picks her up on the screen. We're all staying to the outside. All 3 of our picks are in double digits. I went 12, 11, 13. Kaylie went 14, 12, 11. The 13 and the 14 are not AEs. That's not a typo. They are in the body of the field. So we're going to start to the farthest outside with forever to go. Go ahead, Kaylie. Take it away with your top pick in here.
Yeah, this is my top pick. Clearly has, really good speed, draws very well, gets the outside post in this race, and I think should be able to sit a really nice trip. Clearly, gets Carmouche aboard again, and is really just knocking at the door for a win, finished second in her last 3 starts. But only the last start was, her first time over a fair track. So I thought that, this one should be able to sit a nice trip, has really good speed, and went 7 furlongs last time out. So maybe a little cutback if you look at that race, should honestly help this one as well. So I think that this could be the graduation for this horse, but I am happy to see that you have a horse on top that I was really tempted to put on top over this number 14. But yeah, I think this one should honestly sit a really nice trip on Saturday.
Yeah, should sit a really nice trip and looks to at least clear off and be the speed. But I mean, this horse has had pretty much everything, her own way in the last start and the start 3 back and just never quite got it done. And I know one was over a sloppy track and then the race 2 back, the same thing. And there's too many excuses for me to pick that one on top, but another one I gave it a look to because this is probably the most competitive race on the entire sequence that we're going over, and they saved the best for last. So shout out to whoever makes the, the what am I looking for? Whoever lays out the races for a day, the schedule maker there. I'm losing my mind. But the number 12, Cloudy Chance. I thought this one was had a huge shot. I'll go to the dam real quick. You can see 3 for 5 with the first-time starters, just produces nothing but winners, 37 wins from 133 total starts. So obviously like to see that as, kin to horses like Winston's Chance, If I Had a Chance, Jack and Bernie, kind of lower-level horses, but all did really well and were all really consistent in their own right. So I thought 15-1, you see Lascano hop aboard. Chris Englehart's very good at with these first-time starters, looking at a $4 ROI from a good sample size of 26 starters. So I'm really excited to see this one run here. I think this one's going to create some tremendous value. I got to say what we're all thinking. I wish this race was earlier on in the sequence where we could see the will pays or the probables or see the live betting board, because I would love to know which one of these first-time starters or which one of these horses are taking a lot of money. So I'm just going to have to roll the dice and hope the Cloudy Chance is going to. But I think whether or not this one takes some money, the workouts in the morning have looked good. This horse is out of a winning family, top and bottom. all signs seem to point towards this is the kind of runner I want in here, debuting for Chris Engelhart. You had this one somewhere as well. You have this one in second. Anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I completely agree. I was very tempted to put this one on top, but like you said, it's a very competitive race. I'd like to see a start, but one that I'll have on my ticket, trying to chase a price a little bit. But this one is very interesting from a pedigree standpoint, from what you said. Clearly a very precocious female family, and is the half to Winston's Chance, who's also by a pretty inexpensive sire. I bring that up because if you're looking at this race, it's a cloud computing and a race with first time starters like a More Than Ready, and then you have a Vacoma in here as well. But I think that this one, clearly the dam is throwing some pretty precocious nice foals from less expensive stud fees as well. So this one is pretty interesting to me, and the works look good too, and you get Lascano aboard, so one that I think you can get a pretty big price with.
Me too. I completely agree. Yeah, Cloudy Chance, I thought, deserved a big look in here. We'll go to the number 11, and I'll go to you. We both have this horse somewhere in our top three. I have this one in second. You have this one in third. Talking about Julita.
Yeah, the first time Lasix should make a difference for this horse. I mean, the last time we saw her was in January. She didn't run, terribly that day. She broke from the rail, which is a pretty hard task. I mean, 7 furlongs and breaking from the rail. It's a pretty hard debut. So I think that this one should improve, drawing further towards the outside, has a better post, and should improve off that effort, getting Lasix for the first time as well.
Yeah, something I always pay attention to with Dave Duggan runners and a couple others, but honestly, Duggan specifically, is for his first-time starters, he doesn't normally crank them up too much. So I really like to kind of look at the work pattern as they go from those debut runs into their second career start. And you can see the works are very kind of workmanlike almost going prior to his debut. And then after that January 10th debut, he came back March 7th with a quick 3 furlong drill. And he just seems to be working a lot sharper. That last workout over the Belmont training track, going 4th of 64 and 4 furlongs and 48 seconds flat. Obviously, it seems to be coming into this really well. He gets Lasix for his second time. Dave Duggan's had an excellent meet. This runner took some money in the debut, went off at just over 5-1. So for Dave Duggan to kind of get that kind of money first time out, says this horse has some ability. And then second time out, that's where Duggan really succeeds, and third time out as well. But 243 ROI for these second time starters for Dave Duggan, gets Lasix. All the kind of stats are pointing me in his direction. Luis Rivera obviously going to keep the mountain. Could take a big step up and get a lot of fitness out of that 7 furlong debut. So I'm looking forward to this one running. Certainly one that's going to be on my tickets. We got to stick to the outside, though, because the next runner we're going to talk about is the number 13 for Christophe Clement, Ina Murata. This one's out of More Than Ready, this filly. Out of a Take Charge Indy mare. Manny Franco is going to actually not have this mount. I forget if we mentioned this earlier in the day or not, but he will be in South Florida on Saturday because he is going to be riding Sovereignty. Obviously, Hope Jr. Alvarado recovers quickly. That was a bummer. Same with Tyler Gaffleone. 2 huge jockey changes coming up here as we kind of approach that first Saturday in May, but certainly this weekend it's going to have major repercussions. So I'm curious to see who takes the mount in place of Manny Franco here, but it does make me think that this runner's got some ability and it's going to be live first time out. Such a steady pattern of drills for Christophe coming in here, just 5 furlong after 5 furlong drill, nice and steady, not doing anything too much over at Payson Park, which is, a harder track, I guess, to work out, maybe a little bit deeper, but I've seen him debut these first time starters on these dirt sprints, specifically in state bred, specifically up in New York. And they do a lot better than his typical first-time starter. So that 12% is even, a little bit higher when we go to these dirt sprints in state-bred maiden races. So the fact that Manny Franco wanted to book this mount says a lot. I know he's not going to be riding, but it makes me think this horse has some ability. So I want to include this one in a race that just has, honestly, so many possibilities. It could go so many different ways. So I thought 5-1 was a fair price and one that could definitely take some money at the windows.
Yeah, I'd agree. I thought this one was interesting as well. Definitely has some pedigree on the dam side, and it's 5-1 on the morning line, pretty good price, and also could say a little bit something about the horse that she is 5-1, first time starter, not much to go, even though the dam, stakes winning dam, but this is her first full. So I think 5-1 on the morning line might say that this one, maybe they know something, has a little bit of ability as well.
Exactly. Yeah, we had David Aragon on the show, and he mentioned for some of these first time starters, like whether or not he kind of hears the buzz. Sometimes it's just all around him, and you can't really help but ignore it. And other times, you have no idea. So I kind of went both directions. I took the number 13 at 5-1, which was decent, and then I also my top pick and Kaylie's second choice, Cloudy Chance, at 15-1. So maybe we'll get some luck with a first time starter. Obviously, we were 11, 12, 13, and 14 in here, so I think we should touch on some of the inside runners. I'll start quickly. The number 10, obviously being out of Vekoma, you got to give this one a look. The debut at Tampa was okay. I think, coming from off of it, obviously being a New York bred versus open company in that debut, it's going to be tough. Coming from off the pace at Tampa, that's going to be tough. A lot of things didn't go her way that day, but comes up here in good order. I'd look for some market improvement in this Vekoma filly, because certainly that debut buyer fits. So if this one were to improve on that, it could give her a big shot. Were there any other runners in here that kind of caught your eye that you wanted to talk about as I scroll through?
I think definitely the two Truly Magic is, a horse that we talked about a lot on this show.
Mm-hmm.
8-1 on the morning line. I think that she's probably gonna get beat. I think she has some first time starters in here that are pretty interesting. And then, like you said, the 14 is pretty tough as well, but definitely one that, fits a little bit and hasn't run too horribly, but not one I'd want to take, but definitely one that I gave a long look to as well.
I'm with you. This is a bit of a fuzzy horse. Has kind of just run the same race 4 separate times, but maybe if they really get this one out to I don't know what they have to do to have this one, take an even bigger step up, but certainly one of those that's just kind of foggy that maybe we haven't quite seen the best of so far. But such a deep and contentious race here. The last one I'll talk about is the Dave Donk runner, number 3 here, Tisn't Anymore, out of Tis the Law, of course, the stellar New York bred who ran during 2020. But this one on the debut didn't do much running, but I don't typically expect the Dave Donk runners to do a whole lot on debut. I wanted to give this one maybe a slight look to improve. I don't know by how much. The works don't look crazy, but Sofia Vives has been riding outstanding at Aqueduct this meet. So she's always put her horses in the right spot. She's teamed up with Dave Donk a couple times. So I'll give this one a shot. Maybe, third at the absolute best, but I'd like to see some improvement, because this is one I think could go on, as the year and as she develops to maybe be a good state bred horse come, late spring or summertime. So that's the number 3, but super competitive field here in the 11th. This entire pick 5 sequence is damn near impossible, but you and I were, in pretty close agreement for a lot of this. So hopefully that, is a vote of confidence. You've been picking great the past few weeks on this show. So hopefully our like minds are going to end with us cashing some tickets this weekend. I would certainly like that. But in race number 11, state bred maiden race, I went 12, 11, 13. Kaylie went 14, 12, 11. Again, that is a 14 horse field to end the day. Good luck to everybody handicapping and wagering in there. You're certainly going to get your price wherever you end up going. I mentioned no pick 5 tickets today, just because we had Matt Dinerman on for those first couple races for the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby. And we have gone just so over the amount of time that I try and keep the show to. So for everybody that's been tuning in and watching, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. I know Kaylie does as well. If you're watching on X, give us a follow on there. Our ats are right down below us right now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel over on the Gallop Out. Check out all of Kaylie's work on Naira Bets that she does, as the road to the Oaks and the Derby is heating up with every passing day. I'd anticipate, Kaylie, we're going to see some more come out with the Fantasy and the Arkansas Derby. And, next week we have Santa Anita Derby and the Wood Memorial. I'd imagine it's going to get hot really quickly out there.
Yeah, Matthew and I are doing a video tomorrow morning, so it will be up tomorrow morning about all 4 preps this weekend. at Oaklawn and at Gulfstream. So really excited about that. I think the Gulfstream Park Oaks is very competitive race. I mean, obviously, the Florida Derby is as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting, and very excited to talk about those races as well tomorrow.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that over on the Naira Bets X account. But yeah, thank you everybody again for tuning in. I've been your host, Ryan. This is my co-host, Kaylie. Jackson will hopefully be back next week as we keep things rolling. It's Wood Memorial Week, so you can guarantee that this show is going to be covering the late pick 5 out there. We'll probably also have to put our thoughts in for, the Santa Anita Derby and the Oaks out there is that's, our home out on the West Coast. But thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for the support. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on X, and we will see you next week. Good night.